Today we're talking about mixing a flesh. And the palette that I demonstrated in video 9 was laying it out. And I'm of course using a whole different palette, so just to mess you up, but this is unique for flesh tones. And for that, I'm going to use 3 distinct and separate colors. One is a Blue Ridge Terra Rosa. Again, that's Eric Silver. This is a Williamsburg Chromium Oxide Green. And this is a transparent yellow oxide. And I don't think it matters which brand of these colors you get because they're all pretty consistent. The process involved with this does matter though. And what I'm going to do is first mix a little bit of the red, the green, and the yellow together to make what's I consider like a dirty pumpkin color. And I'm going to mix these in such a way and in such an order that we get the pumpkin first, which will be the yellow and the orange, and then we'll add some of the cool green to it to tone it down to the value of our flesh. And I tend to use the underside of my arm to establish the value because it doesn't have much of the vascularity or hair involved with it, so I'm able to see a better color here. And then from that basic color, we'll warm it up and find shadows and cool it up and find darks and all this other stuff. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the weakest color, which is the yellow, and we're going to add to it one of the strongest colors, which is the Terra Rosa. So I don't need much of the Terra Rosa. And I'm going to keep adding that until I get halfway between the yellow and the red. It's difficult to see that. It looks like I need a little more yellow. And so one of the ways that I'll help myself see it is to take a little bit of white, just the tiniest bit, and let me see the color a little better. So I'm just taking the tiniest bit of white so I can see that color. And that's a pretty good color. It's equally distant from the yellow as it is from the red. It still looks a tiny bit red to me, so I'm going to throw in a lot more of that yellow. Because again, the yellow is a weak color. Take a little more white to test that. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so this is that pile of now dirty pumpkin color. To that, I'm going to add this chromium oxide, which is another really strong color. And I'm going to, look at that, it's just so strong. So I make a pile of it here, and I'm going to pull a lot of that off, and then add the rest of this to it. Oh, there we go. So I'm looking for a color that is ugly. It's not yellow, it's not green, it's not red. It is just disgustingly dirty. And we look at that, throw a little white till we see it. I'll scoop it up and leave a pile of it there. Take the other half and take white, throw it out, and add it to this pile until I get to the value of my flesh. And by the value, I mean the lightness and darkness. And I may even touch it on my arm just to see that I'm close. It's a little bit too dark, just a little bit, so I'm going to very slowly add the light to it. Yeah, that looks just about right. So that's about the value of my skin. That means the lightness and darkness is correct. To that extent, I then keep this pile over here. I'll take the darker version of it over there, and I'll put my pantry colors back in the pantry. So this is the basic tone. And in order to, I'll lay that out in a circle about the size of a grapefruit. To that, I'm going to add a little bit of white. I'm going to add a different rose. This is a Italian rose. You could use alizarin crimson. That's usually the color I'll use. But this is, and I'll add a little white to it. So we're really beginning to get a rosier tone. And we're going to pull that right into the flesh on one side of the flesh. And you're going to notice how, if I hold that back up, now we're shifting from the value to getting the correct color. And I'm looking at that color and I say, okay, I need a little more red tone, and so that's that dirty red. And I'm gonna throw that in just so I get it there. And go, yeah, that's a pretty good red. So now so I've got a warmer tone, I've got a redder tone of the same value. Now I'm gonna find a brighter tone. To that I'm gonna add the cad yellow medium and a little bit more white, just the tiniest bits of that. And I'm gonna mix that again right into this bath of color. And that should give me a lot of the accent lights that I need. So I'm going to look at those and say, well, they're a little too yellow and a little too bright. So to that, again, I'm going to add some of that rosy color. Need some more. And I could go right with the Terra Rosa too if I wanted to. that tends to get so dark. You see how much darker that made it? So it's a question of how much speed you want. But that got me close enough. I think we're fine. And if I need to get a little bit brighter again, I try not to use the lemon because it's so brilliant that it doesn't give us some of the earthier tones that we need. So I'm going to have that as my bright, and then I'll take a little bit of either a little bit of diazonine purple or a little bit of ultramarine blue, and take that into that pile of pumpkin color and get to the shadow tones. And this is my flesh palette. This is how I'll do it. And out there, you don't see any of the green in there. There's a tendency for the green in the skin to make the skin look a little sickly. So we use the green to help kill some of the warmth, but we try not to see the green. There are times when you do need to see that, but this is the basic tonal flesh. It works really well. And all of this can be used as accents.